missed it. Yeah, it's like, oh no, I thought, oh, did you? Yeah. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. How are y'all doing? Welcome. This is our second presentation today for our Entrepreneurial Challenge. We want to welcome you all. We welcome all of the folks that are competing today. We had a great first round. We are continuing to follow along the same format that we use for the rest of the afternoon. So we will hear from our presenters here for the next 15 or 20 minutes. We will open it up to questions from the judges, and then we will open it up to you in the audience for some questions as well. And I'll make my way through with the microphone. But we would like to introduce you to FirstLine Safety Incorporated. They provide a compact, portable infirmary that is ready to assist in the event of an accident or injury or environmental incident in very remote work locations. The custom-built trailers act as self-contained, really emergency treatment systems. They are designed to provide immediate assistance when the nearest medical facility is far removed from treatment right away. The trailers are equipped to give the victim their best chance at survival until further help arrives. And we're going to hear more about that. And I believe you guys bought a trailer because I saw it when I came in. So I would invite you to go take a look at that too. Let me introduce you to FirstLine Safety, Justin Wheat, Mike Schreiner, Cody Mylander, and Josh Galindo. Please welcome them.
Well, thank you for the introduction. Once again, my name is Josh Galindo. I'm with FirstLine Safety. What we're doing today is we're highlighting our safety trailer. This concept first came to me out on a frac site. I've spent 11 years working in the oil and gas industry, and you know, I've seen a lot of good things, I've seen a lot of bad things. And what happened was, 5 years ago, out on a frac location, we had an accident. We were rigging up to start a frac job, a CO2 frac job, which is a high pressure using a nitrified gas to help stimulate the wellbore. While we're pressure testing the well, we had a loud explosion. We immediately shut down all the pumps, immediately grabbed everybody gathered together to see what had happened. As soon as the pressure died down, that's when one of the safety hands out on location realized a brand new hand who had only been working for us for about a week was down on the ground. When I got there to him, I realized that he was missing a leg and his other leg was mangled to the point where we were all in panic mode. We were up in the high area of the western slope working on this location. So we were in a remote area. The only way we had communication was via the satellite phone and email from our technical command center out on location. When we were trying to figure out what we were going to do to save this young man's life, we were gathering supplies, things that we needed to try to bandage the wound. And of course, in a panic state, nobody really knew what to do. One guy grabbed our first aid kit. If y'all could, just take a quick look at the first aid kit. This is what's typically on site of a frac location. If it wasn't for two young gentlemen who were combat medics on our team, this young man would have died. Bled out right there. They took fast reaction, realized that first aid kit was not acceptable. We gathered coveralls, what we typically wear out on location. I'm sure y'all can smell the smell from the coveralls right now. They're not very clean. They're not sanitary. But this is what we had to work with. The other gentleman took his belt and a shoelace and started tying off a tourniquet. When we made the phone call, right away, it took over 45 minutes before we even had Flight for Life out on location. We had to load the gentleman in the back of an SUV, drove down the road so we could get the helicopter in a wide enough area to land the helicopter and get him off location. Over 2 hours had passed before he was airlifted off the area. Another 2.5 hours passed before we got word that he was going to be fine, and they were able to save one leg. That's when it started. That's when it dawned on me we needed to have a safety net, something to protect all of us out in the workforce. As you can see, clearly see, this is not adequate out right now. I mean, this is the standard right now for oil and gas. It doesn't work. I'd like to introduce you to one of my partners, Mike. Mike here is also one of the help developers of FirstLine Safety.
Thank you. Again, my name is Mike Schreiner. For the last 5 years, I've been working in the EMS on the ambulance here in Will County. And Well County right now is 4,000 square miles, and I know it's just one county in one area, but I know there's similar counties of that size in this state. And oftentimes these frac sites aren't in our backyards. They're way out in the middle of nowhere. And a couple of points I want to reiterate, again, from a medical perspective anyway, where I see the value in this trailer, is that our response times from this area are often 45 minutes to an hour by ground. And luckily, we're fortunate enough to have access to a couple different medical helicopters. We have about 3 up in this part of the county these days. And they are often limited to travel due to weather, how far they can see, winds, just maybe mechanical issues keep them grounded, so therefore an ambulance is the only way to get to these sites. I've actually had the pleasure of working with some of these gentlemen on these rigs and seeing the injuries that they sustain. And again, like he said, this first aid kit just isn't sufficient. The types of injuries we see on these types of rigs require a lot more than this, and I think this is what our trailers bring to those sites. We're going to fill them with certain equipment such as AEDs, oxygen, bigger trauma kits for those big bleeds like we had described earlier. Falls are also very common, so we're going to get some C-spine mobilization equipment on those. And again, all this equipment is very easy to use, and we're going to have some products in there that are automated to allow any user to get in there and treat this guy right away when that injury happens. Because as he said, there's a gap about 20 to 30 minutes before anything's actually going and getting started, until one of us gets there to continue care, and this environment's going to provide that platform to do so. Also, we want to set a new safety standard on these rigs. We want to increase the education of these guys. Like you said, some of them have only been there a week, some have been there 11 years. We want to bridge that gap and bridge that window of time before response is actually started. And also, we want to increase the survivability of injuries that are that severe, or even as minor as maybe an ankle sprain, lowering the turnaround time for these guys to get back to work. Other than that, it also offers some hazmat and some spill containment equipment on board, so it doesn't only act as a medical platform, but also acts as a first-line response to those types of incidents before bigger units can get on scene and assist. I'm going to introduce you over to I believe Justin speaking next.
I'm Justin Wheat. I'm originally from southern Louisiana. I worked at catastrophe claims for State Farm Insurance for years and grew up experiencing things like Hurricanes Katrina, Gustav. Was actually fortunate enough to work with some medical mobile units. Was I speaking to the microphone? Sorry. medical mobile units supplied by like a local hospital. I used to work for as a pharmacy tech for 7 years. Got to see firsthand how, if a hospital is not readily accessible, how beneficial these things are in treating an injury, saving a life. But I also want to talk about how we want to address an unfilled gap in an enormous market, basically. And I'll take this, sorry, it's kind of but anyway, you see here, first off, this is a list of some major players: Exxon, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, the revenues they had in 2009. For example, Exxon exceeded $440 billion. So the pie we're talking about going into is just, it's astronomical. It's unfathomable, honestly, to look at these numbers. And then also just in the market in Colorado, these green spots represent over 5,000 oil and gas permits that have been approved in Colorado just this year, and we're in March. So, I mean, it doesn't take into account previous permits that are still active, also territories like North Dakota, Oklahoma, Canada, Alaska, locally. I mean, it's everywhere. So we look at the size of the market, and it's exciting because of the sheer size of the market. And then secondly, we're aware that with the size of this market comes possible competition. And we don't view it as a threat, we view it as a challenge, because the pie is so massive. You don't have to monopolize the whole pie to have a successful business venture. You need this much of the pie. We'd love to grow it more because we see such value in our product. But, just for example, we've been speaking with a local fueling company called Maxi Petroleum, which showed interest in our product, and they have 150 facilities nationwide, and have expressed a strong interest, in placing one of these in each of their facilities. That would be an incredible launch for us, should we secure something like that. But I'll turn it over to Cody, and he's going to tell you a little more about what all of a potential client's going to ask as far as how does this add value.
Like Justin said, I'm Cody Mylander, and I bring to the business some business knowledge, also a couple years of experience in the oil and gas industry, and a large network in the industry. So these guys have been talking about this great product with really an overdue entrance into a huge market. But another aspect that's important and is really enticing to our potential customers is the value it adds for them. By one, reducing insurance costs, also reducing the cost of any accident that takes place on a job site, and by taking into consideration the measurable price of a human life. So to start off with insurance, we spoke with our Flood Peterson agent these past few weeks, and he kind of explained that at this point, before our product is really in circulation, it's difficult to determine, to like really assign a number to what our product is going to save our customers. But he also went on to say that insurance premiums are largely determined by claims and losses. So if we're reducing the number of claims and mitigating some of those losses, our customers will be viewed favorably by these insurance companies, and ultimately it will lower premiums and keep them from going up in the future. Now if we turn our attention to this poster, we can look at the costs that are normally associated with a serious injury out on a job site. So just in direct costs alone, that's the initial medical costs, workers' compensation, things like that. From one serious injury, that amounts to about $38,000 on average. So right there, I mean, that's enough to pay for one of our trailers right there. But what people don't usually account for are the indirect costs, which sometimes equal as much as 4 times the direct costs. And that's things like the administrative costs of dealing with accidents, so the costs of hiring a new worker, negative publicity, and the list goes on and on. So based on the $38,000 figure for direct costs, we can estimate indirect costs to be around $152,000, resulting in a totaling cost of $190,000, which is a pretty staggering figure for just one accident. So if you take that into account, if we were able to mitigate even half of that cost by a company using our trailer, the trailer right there pays for itself nearly 3 times. So I think, so really it's a bargain. So we've talked about some of the financial benefits, but there's also a value that cannot be measured by the dollar. And that's the value of a human life. And by putting these things out on location and providing workers with a top-notch safety unit, we're ultimately telling them that we're going to do everything in our power to ensure their safety and that we appreciate what they do. And I'll turn it back over to Justin.
Cody's our dry partner. But yeah, it's basically in conclusion, we just want to give people like the end user a platform for their own safety, and the buyer, we'd like to help them save money, lawsuits, and that letter they have to send out to the families when they say, we've lost one of them today. So, and that's what we want to try to help avoid at all costs. We'll turn it over to you guys. Feel free, guys.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's give them a round of applause. And I forgot that we did not introduce ourselves properly. I'm not sure how many of you were left over from the first round. We will open it up now to questions, and I'll ask the first question while you guys grab the microphone, and then we'll introduce each of our esteemed judges. My name is Greg Moss. I'm an anchor reporter with 9 News. I've been covering business for a long time, probably a long time. But I've had the opportunity to have my own businesses as well. And let me just say that this, I think this, when we read the business plan, business plans don't bring it to life. And when I stopped by and saw it on the way in here, it really does bring it to life. And the fact that you're saving lives, I think, has a great mission to it. But I'm curious, the story you had to tell, first of all, let me just say, the story you have to tell about what happened to you with your coworker out there is phenomenal. I mean, that, to me, I'm just telling you, when you're asking for about 20 million when you want to take this worldwide, and go for that story, because that's what's going to get them. But how big of a problem is this right now? I mean, I can't remember from the business plan that you outlined how many injuries there are in the industry right now, and I see the average, cost to the company and that sort of thing. But look, how big of a problem is this?
You know, in the oil and gas industry, just to give you kind of a rough idea, accidents happen. They happen everywhere, whether you're oil and gas, farming, sports, marina. But as far as oil and gas is the accident, how often it happens, it actually happens often, more often than some. A lot of it are small injuries. And those small injuries start adding up. That's the main focus of our trailer is we can't stop accidents. I mean, bottom line, accidents, that's why they call them accidents. They accidentally happen. We can't stop that. What we can stop is the duration of how long they're going to be as far as out of work. Just a quick example, we were looking through some stats. Just off the top of my head, back in 2009, on the average spend for 2009 was $9.7 million on just workman's comp alone. Now, those are short-term disability as far as ankle sprains, concussions, heat exhaustions, frostbite, stuff like that. That's the focus of the trailer, is we wanted to try to put something out there. We don't want to take the work away from our EMTs by any means, but we wanted to put something out there that would be able to assist until they showed up.
It's a triage kind of thing.
Exactly.
But given the fact that these are big oil companies you're talking about here, and they have huge loss departments and HR departments, what would prevent them? Why aren't they doing this right now?
Because, well, easy. Oil and gas, they're not in the safety business. They're in the oil and gas business. They want to try to produce oil and gas. That's what their main focus on. Yeah, they want to keep their employees safe. I mean, for the last 11 years of my employment, this has been the standard.
That's it?
This is it.
Well, that's shocking to me.
I guarantee you can go on
That's a heck of a
most.
story, I'm just telling you right here.
But yeah, it is a heck of an inventory. But it is getting better. A lot of it is getting better with new technology. Not saying that this is the worst case scenario. It is getting better, but oil and gas has got to move, especially on a frac site. It's not like they're living there for a month. So to be able to have something that's mobile benefits to the oil and gas industry. They need something that they can pick up and move to the next location, because that's what they're moving for.
I can expand too. I think the reason they're not actually doing it right now is because they're just not in, like you said, they're not in that business. Oil and gas, from what we've learned, they like convenience. They don't want to engineer something necessarily. They want to go out and just buy it, or go out and lease it. Like, you got this, good, we'll use it. Let's move on, let's go.
So they like to plug and play.
Right,
Just
exactly.
get in, get out.
And that's what a product kind of offers them. It's like, this is done, this is ready, you guys use it. We can move to the next, because of money.
I get
I
it.
mean, it's money, safety, and we're trying to make it safety money. Or at least bring them up to a somewhat of a level playing field, because it's a dangerous occupation.
Okay.
I'm sure you guys have heard of OSHA.
Yes.
Do they not regulate the oil and gas industry in that kind of way? They certainly regulate our brewery, lockout, tagout, confined space, all that kind of thing.
They do. I think the problem you run into with oil and gas industry is that it's in such a boom. You can see, like in our chart, for example, just Weld County. I mean, it's just massive. And you have a boom, and you have workers coming in that are just rife with an experience. So, and they do regulate it, but I don't know if you've been. I used to work in a hospital, for example, and it's kind of scary. But sometimes you're trying to meet the minimum to pass inspection. You know.
So that's basically, so what they require is something like this.
Right.
And it's up to the company itself, the oil and gas company itself, to be able to do more if they want to.
Right. It's up to the
So-
private entity to say, look, we're buying something more complete to protect you. They don't have to. They can do less than meet the minimum requirements for OSHA, like you're saying.
Are you seeing that, I hope this is the case, but are you seeing that actually companies are a little more concerned about their employees? Or do you think they're more concerned about the liability of the workers' comp?
No, I see that they are definitely moving towards that safety. And this is why we think entering into the market right now is because oil and gas is such, it's out there. It used to be oil and gas was not, I mean, when I first hired out, I didn't know this was going on. But now it's out there. It's in the news. It's in the media constantly. You hear companies of ExxonMobil, Shell, Halliburton. These are household names now. And, you know, with that, of course, the awareness is starting to come up that we have to protect these people. So they are doing their parts of bringing up the standards. That's why we think entering in the market now is a good time because, yeah, we want to help with bringing up those standards. Excuse me. I think my shirt gets hit in the mic.
I think it's a good time too, considering the spotlight on them, for example, after the BP spill. I mean, they're under the microscope right now, and something like this, if nothing else, looks good for their reputation.
So I have a question relative to the business. Why sell this? Why not offer a service to companies and create a recurring revenue stream versus a one-time stream?
As I'm loud. As FirstLine, we're not just selling these to oil and gas companies. We're also providing a leasing program that they can lease these. We're also looking at trying to get other people interested in the United States that want to start and become entrepreneurs themselves to start their own leasing business. Now we're providing trailers for them people so they can start. And now we're putting America back to work ultimately.
So it's anything's possible at this point. The way you modeled it, it looks like you build a trailer, sell it, build a trailer, sell it.
Build a trailer, lease it, build a trailer.
So there is potential to look at it alternatively. And then the other question I have is, when I look at the performance on your income statements, the startup costs look light relative to the 5-year revenue projection. And also, I don't understand the SG&A, kind of the ramping of staff that gets you to that level to support it. And so maybe you could help me kind of think through those pieces of it. I think this idea is amazing, right? Clearly a huge market potential. It's just like to understand kind of how you put together the economics.
So as far as the startup costs go, that's kind of assuming we're going to bootstrap ourselves in and grow slowly, which if we did get a huge order and had to take care of that, then it would be a different story, but that's assuming.
How would you manage that?
A lot of it is just in our own marketing aspect of it. Like Justin had said, we're spending 11 years of working for only 2 real companies I've ever worked for in the oil and gas. Those are our 2 main customers that we're trying to push right at the moment. We do realize it's going to go as soon as it hits. Hey, these guys have got a great product at a low cost, and guess what? It's going to make us money on the insurance side.
And we've linked up with 4 different manufacturers and then 1 other private. Yeah, and they're ready to go, basically at that call. And the way we're kind of preparing for that is because we do see that as a good problem, but maybe even a sinking problem if Halliburton comes back, for example, and says, this is a great idea, we'd like 100 of these trailers. How do you produce them? And I think the way we're going to tackle that is by lining up these multiple manufacturers and advising them that we're going to get them so many trailers per month to get them to that number to start out. And using the base like the Maxim Petroleum I was talking about starting at or something like that, they're familiar with our place and our startup and stuff, so we can use some of these connections, because these guys, he's been in the industry for 11 years, for example, Cody as well. Our connections are numerous, so that's going to help us, I think, for that initial growth, people to understand we're a startup, get the product out there, get the seed money back in, reinvest in the company, and push it forward, and I think that's how our numbers might make more sense to you.
Okay. One other kind of follow-on to that. So as I read through the marketing plan, it looked like you used a lot of web-based, there was a retail kind of outlet and those sort of things. And it seems to me, even as we've been discussing today, that the market potential with just one of these people, like an Exxon or a Halliburton, is huge, right? So why waste any money on all those other things? Why don't you spend all your time talking to the top 45 of those guys and create $1 billion business?
I think that's a great idea. And I think we're starting, we've got a, we have like like a meeting in 2 weeks with Encana, which is a huge entity. So I agree totally. Go good old boy handshake and talking to these guys and just get it out there. I think the website, we mentioned that just as far as a brochure, kind of like click on, you can go to this thing, you know, it's easy access, I can see what you got. Because I mean, a lot of this stuff, maybe it's logistically, it's not easy to get to North Dakota to show them our trailer, but it's easy for them to click on a website or Skype with us and discuss it.
So just one other further question. So say you land the Gordon Gekko of oil and gas safety,
Yeah.
and you have your manufacturing lined up, it sounds like, but what about the financing of that? And what kind of like bank relationships or financial relationships do you have in place where you could show potentially letters of intent or, you know, real good scale to this that could help you mobilize and not disappoint and allow somebody that has better access to capital to jump in and take your business from you?
We've actually been in touch with several potential investors already that are really interested. And as far as financing a big order, something that's not uncommon in the industry is for companies to pay part of it up front to help with our production. So that's a possibility as well, but if that doesn't work out, we have other means to getting the money for production.
We do have other investors currently waiting to start investing once we hit that point.
It was exciting because actually people we pitched the product to sell offered to turn around and be an investor in certain cases. Yeah.
That's a good sign.
Yeah.
You know, just real quickly, and we'll come out to the audience here. What I think the point to piggyback on Brad, I think you have the real potential of growing yourself to death without that financing or lines of credit for manufacturing. But it sounds like you've got that kind of addressed. But I'm still worried. I'm still concerned about the competition standpoint here. Is there anybody else doing this right now? And what would prevent somebody with a lot deeper pockets coming in and wrapping up this pretty darn quick?
Actually, there are other companies that are producing it. We found a couple that have come up with a similar idea. Okay, they're back east. They seem to be growing. We've just recently found these companies that we've been researching. It's not as easy to find as just Googling safety trailers. We've tried that. We really had to dig for those companies. But we do see that those companies are already pre-existing. And it's like Justin was saying, we're looking at a huge pie that is unfathomable to the point where we're just a crumb, and we only need a crumb to actually jumpstart us. And I think the connections that Mr. Snyder and myself have, and same with the other two gentlemen, already have knocked on them doors and already shown interest in it, will actually be able to get us going in the right directions, or say, and actually save us from getting eaten up by some other company, I believe. Just because of from the strong
Well, now that's a good
support.
question. What's your exit strategy here? Why not get eaten up by some big company and cash out?
We actually talked about that last night.
So we can all make a lot of money too.
And when are you doing that, right?
Yeah.
And to expand on the competition, when he says similarity, you're looking at what we found are trailers with like a toilet and an outdoor emergency shower. And we live in Colorado, it gets cold, for example. I mean, so sometimes it's just not as feasible. And other units that use the utility cargo trailer kind of setup, it's basically like, what do they call them, man camps? Like lounge areas, break room type setups with that first aid kit in there, possibly. So, yes, there's competition, but at the same time, we feel kind of no, there's not, because it's not on par with what we're offering. And that again goes to just the massive market we're looking at. Like you said, it's like this slice can really break us forward, we believe.
And as you're looking, and I'm sorry, I'm asking you two questions.
No, you're fine.
Well, no, I gotta get out of here because I'm selfish. But as you're looking at as you're looking at selling this market here, what other sorts of products could you expand upon to increase the safety and I mean, sort of, because it's not just this, I imagine.
Oh, no. That's why we have an EMT.
Yeah.
And just to kind of go back to some of those other questions as well, we've already been working with some other companies and using their products in our trailers, which I think help make our trailer a little bit more unique outside of those simple man camps, if you will. It makes it, again, even more automated, even more simple to treat any type of emergency or illness on scene. And we've also been coming up with some ideas to expand these outside of oil and gas into other areas. And also, we have some ideas of different things that we can put into these trailers as well that, again, no other trailer on the market offers. And like these guys said, we're going to be willing to provide services that nobody else offers as well, such as educational opportunities, training opportunities to bring this standard of care up and to bridge that gap.
Is there any way to protect this, your intellectual property? Is there anything to, I don't know if there's anything patentable about this, but is there any way you can bundle this and get a patent on it?
We've kind of reviewed that, and there's some specific aspects of the trailer it's possible, but to answer your question, no, I don't believe this is patentable, and I think we kind of view ourselves, I think we're okay with that, because we researched it at first, but is Facebook patented? I don't know. We kind of view ourselves maybe like the Facebook of the oil and gas industry, because if you hit the market, what we want to do is hit the market hard, hit it fast, establish some long-term contracts, and then we have that piece of the pie, we have our name out there, we have our reputation, and we can grow from there. And the thing Mike was speaking about too, is basically we've linked up with this company who backs our product, and it's basically a medical speak and spell where you press the button, it tells you the next thing, press the button, this, do this, do this. So if you're in that situation, yeah.
So there are some products you can add to this.
Correct.
That might be
Correct. These aren't replacing ambulances, they are cost effective, and it still gives them just a platform to begin that care in a much more timely fashion.
Greg, can I add a quick add?
Please.
So another piece of that, as I look around the room, there's a lot of iPads and so forth. Is that possibly in your design to say, hey, you know what, the training and everything you need is right here, because I didn't hear that in the presentation, of saying, here's a step-by-step somebody doing it, here's a video.
Right, and yes, I have some ideas of how to, I think incorporating technology is a very important aspect into our trailers. Again, I think it would help to make it a little bit more unique. But yes, I have ideas for programs that basically, again, yeah, anybody could get in and it would walk you through it visually, or maybe even have the opportunity to have an online direction with an advanced level of care, nurses, doctors, PA, something of that nature, that they could literally see someone and get walked through this simple processes of, let's say, applying a tourniquet, a little bit more advanced than a shoestring or belt, which again, we will offer in these trailers.
Yeah. Real quick also, just so everybody knows, the standard right now in oil and gas is everybody on location has to take a minimum first aid class. So everybody, we designed the trailer for that aspect already in place. So, I mean, just to also help with that answer, people out there have already taken the first aid class. We're just trying to reinforce the first aid that they've already know and supply some extra supplies to help them fight the good fight.
And also along the lines of your technology question, we also have a device that we place in our trailer called a Spot, if anybody's familiar with that. And it's basically just a remote GPS locating system that has their own emergency services where you literally can go in, press a button, it alerts them, they alert 911, GPS location, they know where to come. So we are definitely looking into putting as much technology as feasible in here to make it user efficient, user friendly.
Very good. Just a few minutes left. One question here. Yes.
How long does it take to produce? How much does it cost to produce? And let's just go down the path that you can't finance it, okay? How much capital do you have to raise in order, let's say you get that 100 order. How much capital do you have to raise immediately, and what would you be willing to give away to the company from an investment standpoint in order to make that happen?
For the order for, was it 100, I think? We're looking to produce maybe between 2 to 2.5 million, somewhere around there.
Okay, in revenues?
To actually produce 100 of these trailers and have them out.
So you need $2.5 million.
Correct.
Okay, and how long does it take to produce one?
Right now, with each of our manufacturers and the ones that because we get a base built and we customize it to make it like this, but we're looking at turning, I think. Yes, it'd be 3.
But yeah, 3 every 2 weeks.
3 trailers every. That's one manufacturer. So realistically about 20 a month.
20 a month.
Correct.
So you could be deployed fully on 100 in 5 months or so.
Sure.
And the 2.5 million is only for the manufacturing side, or that includes, your SG&E, all the other pieces to the puzzle? Yes?
Finished product.
Finished product.
Finished product.
Correct, yes, sir.
And so if an investor invested in you, what would you give away?
We would love to talk about that. That's a problem that I mean, it's a realistic problem because these markets are so huge, and we've talked about that ourselves, and I mean, we're not above giving up some to push these things further, so.
Well, to keep somebody else out, you got to go quick, which is what you said.
Exactly.
But in order to go quick, you have to have capital.
Right, absolutely.
Great idea.
Thanks. Did I answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you have letters of, or could you get letters of intent from these people? Letters of interest?
People that want to purchase the trailers?
Yeah, some of these big contracts you're talking
One, we're
about.
currently working on that letter of intent, one of the companies that we've really been working on.
We're kind of,
Would they do a binding letter of intent, or it's just kind of?
no, they'll do
Brad's
it.
ready to write a check.
Yeah, we're kind of waiting to push. We're kind of waiting to do our major push after we present it to you guys and stuff, first of all, and also we have to be careful, like you said, because if we do a major push, we have to be careful that we can support the demand if we mass market. So we're trying to be cognizant of that at least to make sure we're doing it the correct
I mean,
way.
you should think through in the event that happens, right? Because I think we've established that could happen. You have a case study that says it could.
Correct.
How are you going to respond to that? Because I don't know that you have the right answer yet.
Right. Well,
You guys got to really think about that, because it potentially sounds like that could be an issue.
yeah, no, I agree, and I think the quick answer to that is to immediately start linking up with investors and immediately go to more manufacturers. We're just going to have to kind of start shopping out our blueprints and get them done as quickly as possible. Because if we're hooking up with 10, 12 manufacturers, the only problem with that too that we've discussed is we want to make sure we have consistent product. And if you are using different manufacturers, then this trailer doesn't equal this trailer or something. So that's currently what we're in the works in right now, making sure that we hope we have that problem, but we hope that problem doesn't sink us. But that's our biggest. I think that's our biggest question right now. We're trying to address that.
Well, we're out of time, so let's get to our first one. All right? We're going to take a 15-minute break, and we'll come back with our next round here. Thank you.
Real quick, if you all would like, we'd invite all of you guys to come outside and come take a look at our trailer. We do have a demo
So
outside.
there's a demo
wide
trailer
open.
right outside the main doors.
Yes.
Here, right? Good. I'm going to take one.
Thank you.
Are the business plans out on the website? Can anybody access them, or do you have to ask the individuals for the?
We can send them to you. We have access. Say that again. Right.
So you may want to approach the individuals, and they're all out here. But I was thinking that summary was out, like the summary pitch book is out on the website, MCB, and then under email.
Well, it's just the general information about each finalist. It's not their business plan. But I know